we'll get in here of roughly the time that he was prophesying. We do know that he was prophesying to the northern kingdom of Israel. So this is the time frame that we've been studying in has been the divided kingdom, right? So this is after David and Solomon have died, and then the kingdoms have split. So you have the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. As we read through here, so this is prior, obviously, to any of the captivities. This is potentially 40 to 50 years before the fall of the northern kingdom, taken into captivity by Assyria. Again, we do know that Hosea prophesied to the northern kingdom. He is one of only two of the prophets that are written about in here that prophesied to the northern kingdom of Israel. The other one we just studied is Amos. He was also to the northern kingdom. All the other ones were to Judah, the southern kingdom. I had a list in here. So he probably very likely knew Amos. Also in that time was Isaiah prophesying, as well as Micah, who of course both have books written from them around this time. All right, so getting into it, the very first, so chapter 1 and verse 1. The word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, the son of Beri, in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in those days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. So again, this gives us a timeline. So Uzziah, that's one that we've been reading about recently. What do we remember about Uzziah? Right, so he got leprosy at the end, right? So what caused him to get leprosy? Yep. Yeah, things were going good for him, so he thought that he had the right to go in there and do the duties of the priest, right? They kind of followed him in to kind of stop him from doing that, and he ended up getting leprosy because of it. It also mentions his sons in here and grandsons. So Uzziah, and then his son, which we haven't read about yet, is Jotham, and then Jotham's son is Ahaz, and then Ahaz's son is Hezekiah. All those are mentioned over in the book of Kings, 2 Kings in particular, when we start reading about them. And then it mentions the king of Israel, the northern kingdom, is Jeroboam the second. And we won't read much about him today, but this is, again, gives us all the timeline of when Hosea is speaking, because again, there's not much known about him other than what we read here in the book of Hosea. All right, and then, yeah, Uzziah he started out as a really good king. He had, let's flip over to 2 Chronicles and 26. So we'll kind of refresh ourselves on what we read about him last week. And if somebody could read 2 Chronicles 26, 16 to 21. All right, so that gives a little bit of context of what was going on here in the southern kingdom with the king of Uzziah when Hosea is sent to go and speak. And we'll flip back over to Hosea, and in verse 2, the beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea. And the Lord said to Hosea, Go, take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. So here it says the first words that was given to Hosea when the Lord started speaking to him was to go and get a wife of whoredoms, right? Which is, not something that we hear a whole lot of, right? There's pretty strong language, but essentially he's instructed to go and marry someone who is either unfaithful now or who he knows will be unfaithful, right? We're not sure if she's a prostitute. Typically, he's talked about as having to go marry a prostitute. We're not necessarily told that, just we know it's going to be an unfaithful woman. And we don't read anywhere in this verse or in the rest of the chapter where Hosea even questioned that. I don't know, I might have kind of had to barter and try to see what I could trade for, right? There's some good examples of Abraham and maybe, so Hosea is, if I was given any burden of the prophets, would be by far my least favorite one to have to take on his burden, followed probably pretty closely by Ezekiel. But Ezekiel had a lot of things too that he was asked to do that wasn't necessarily great for him. But then he did get all the cool visions and get to hang out with an angel the last half of the book. So it might be a pretty good trade-off. We don't read anything like that with Hosea. Hosea just, here's what you're told to do. So it sounds like a very harsh thing. And why in this verse does it say that he is instructed to do that? What's the Lord's reasoning? Yeah, it's an illustration. We're told in there because the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord, right? That's the last half of verse 2. So he is given this burden to go and marry this woman because of exactly that. It's an illustration of Israel, God's betrothed, and their departure from them. Now, in saying that, do we read anywhere in here that it's a parable or anything that is could say that this is maybe just something that's a metaphor? No. Yep. Yes. Yeah, this is entirely because of God and his purposes. And it sounds, again, like it's a very harsh thing for us that maybe we don't understand. Um, Obviously, I was trying to read a lot about this timeline and where Hosea fit into it. And there's a pretty good breakdown if we want to flip over to 2 Kings and chapter 17. So this is obviously in the same time, kind of a parallel thing that's going on here. This is speaking around the time of the captivity when Assyria came into the land to overthrow Israel. But this gives a good breakdown of kind of a snapshot of what was going on at this time. If we remember from Amos that this was a very prosperous time in Israel's history, and a lot of what Amos was saying was just unfathomable to the people of the time. They just couldn't understand that the devastation that Amos was speaking of would actually come to pass because they were just so prosperous. So here, if I get somebody to read 2 Kings 17, and we'll do 7 through 23. Relatively lengthy reading. 23, the last couple there. Yeah, so that little last part there is obviously a little bit before where we're at right now in the story, but this uh, is a good illustration of kind of what was going on at that time, that there was um, just rampant idolatry and child sacrifice and everything else uh, going on here in the kingdom of Israel. Thank you for reading that, Jim. I think that kind of illustrates a lot of what was going on at this time, which is why Hosea is given such a strong commandment from the Lord, that uh, it kind of helps us just understand. Again, not that we can fully understand it, but um, kind of the challenges that they were facing at this time, and why this burden was kind of put upon Hosea over here. So back in Hosea, we'll start in verse 2 again. So the beginning of the Lord, or the beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea. And the Lord said to Hosea, Go and take thee a wife of whoredoms, the children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And the Lord said unto him, Call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of Israel, of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. So here he's told to, again, go and take a wife who, it says of whoredoms, again, maybe a prostitute, maybe somebody who he knows that is going to be unfaithful to him. We're told that woman, her name is Gomer. And then the son that they have is, he's instructed to name him Jezreel. So what do we know about Jezreel? God says yes. So it's a place, right? I mean, it's a place that we read about in Scripture here, the Valley of Jezreel. But yes, the meaning behind the name is exactly that. It's God sows. It's God's arm. So if you kind of think of like God sowing seed out there, is kind of the name of it. So in this illustration, kind of based on what we know about the having this wife and the children of whoredoms, it is an illustration of God's wrath to come, right? So they're united into this kingdom, well, united in the northern kingdom, the two kingdoms are divided, but they're all in a kingdom now, and you think of God sowing, God dispersing them out of their land. So it's a punishment that's kind of foretold here of what's going to happen to the northern kingdom of Israel. There's a little bit of background here too. So it talks about Jehu. So I did quite a bit of reading on Jehu back in 2 Kings 9 and 10. So he was a captain under Ahab and Ahab's son Joram. And Jehu was actually somewhat in secret anointed king of the northern kingdom of Israel. And his instruction was to go and kill off the house of Ahab. So that's exactly what he did. So he was a warrior, again, a captain in the army, and he went out and he slew Ahab and Jezebel and all their sons and everyone related to them, and took the kingdom for himself. And he was told when he did that he did what was asked of him, but he essentially went too far. It sounds like that it was more bloody than it needed to be. He punished more people than he probably should have. So because of that, he was going to get to sit on the throne of Israel, but he was only going to sit there till the fourth of his generations. So the ones that we read about, so the ones that Brother Jim just read for us, that Jeroboam is Jeroboam the second, the one who is on the throne at this time, and that is his grandson, the grandson of Jehu, and then his son only reigns for 6 months, and then he's overthrown. So that's the 4 generations of Jehu that was prophesied by the Lord because of the way he did it. So again, this is a prophecy. As we go through the rest of these, there's going to be some more names. All the children's names mean something, and this one here means, God sows. God will scatter the seed of Israel. All right, verse 6. And she, so this is Gomer, and she conceived again and bare a daughter. And God said unto him, Call her name Lo Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. So here we have Gomer. So it says she conceived again. It does not say in here by Hosea or not, right? So we just know by kind of some of her past and everything. It just says that she conceived again. Maybe it's Hosea's, maybe it's not. Either way, it sounds like potentially it's not, because the name that God is meant to call her is Lo Ruhamah. And what does Lo Ruhamah mean? Anybody know? No mercy, right? So that's the name of this child. Lo Ruhamah is no mercy. And it says, because so that's the Lord, will have no mercy upon the house of Israel, and I will utterly take them away. So remember, Jezreel is their scattering. Lo Ruhamah means he will have no mercy on them, that he's going to take them away. And in verse 7, it says that he will have mercy, though, on the house of Judah, right? So you have the northern kingdom of Israel, you have the southern kingdom of Judah. Israel gets taken away by Assyria when they come in, and that's in 722 BC. And the lower kingdom of Judah, which anybody who was part of the Zechariah study is the one that we talked about the most, they were taken away into Babylon in 580 something BC. So going on 200 years after that. So Assyria comes in here, and they do take away Israel into captivity. It said, but he will have mercy upon Judah. So right after Assyria took Israel into captivity, they then tried to take Judah. Does anybody remember what happened when they marched on Judah? Woke up dead. That is one way to say it. Yes, so this is back in Kings. I know I have the scripture in here somewhere. Stand by. I was thinking it was 17. I don't know if I quite got that written down. Oh yeah, okay. So I'll just read I had the beginning where they're attacking, and then at the end of it. So in 2 Kings and verse 35. So here they are, the Assyrian army has marched on Judah, and they are surrounding them. And the Lord prophesies that he will, again, have mercy on them, and that he will take care of it. So in verse 35, it says, And it came to pass that that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote the camp of the Assyrians, and 4,500, when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So this was God having mercy on the kingdom of Judah. So they were marched upon by Assyria, and God withheld that force. There wasn't a bow shot into the city, and Assyria left Judah alone. All right, I'm going to pick up the pace here. In verse 8, back in Hosea. Now when she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. And God said, Call his name Lo Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. So here we have another child born to them. And again, it just says that she conceived. It does not say if she was conceived as Homer's child or not, or Hosea's child or not. But we have another child born, and this one is Lo Ami. What does Lo Ami mean? Not my people. So again, we have Jezreel, God sows. Lo Ruhama, which means he will have no mercy, and then he is rejecting the people. So you are not my people, right? And again, these are reminders every time that Judah calls his kids, or Hosea calls his kids, that this is a reminder, right, of God's punishment and the things that are foretold to come. Because remember, all this is before Assyria comes in, so this is all prophecy, again, 40 to 50 years before it actually comes to pass. And then in verse 10, and yet the number of children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured for number. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God. And all the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. So here it kind of closes the loop of it. So even though that all these things are going to happen, God will still bless Israel as far as they will be as the sand of the sea. There's going to be numerous. They will be out there and dispersed, but they will come back. And they won't come back as they are dispersed with the two kingdoms. They will come back as one unified kingdom under one leader, one chosen leader, which obviously would be their Messiah, right? Jesus the Christ, coming back together under him. Yeah, certainly that last part is still the case, right? That's certainly far from being completed. Yes. Yep. Yes. Yeah, Jerusalem is part of Judah, close to the border. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You read about the calves in there, and actually that was one of Jehu's sins too. When you read about him, is he left the two golden calves up there, and continued to worship them himself and allow worship on, which is another one of the reasons for him, and the punishment that he was told. But yeah, and anybody who's a fan of secular history, you've definitely heard about the Assyrians, and their, you have Ashurbanipal and Sennacherib and all them, and just their conquests, and they actually carved inscriptions all along their walls about all the evils and the wickedness that they'd done. Yeah, the Assyrians be one of the least ones I'd want to go up against if I had to. All right, anything else on chapter 1? All right, well, if we want to jump over to chapter 2, and if I get somebody to read 1, and let's go all the way to 13. All right, thank you, Justine. Yeah, so here we have, sounds like Hosea is maybe addressing his children, so the children he has. So he says, saying in verse 1, say unto your brethren, Ami, and to your sisters, Ruhama. So, of course, that's the name that he just talked to with Jezreel, right? So that's their brothers. So it almost sounds like he is talking to his children to go plead to their mother on his behalf, because she essentially sounds like she ran off, right? Like, she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. That's what it says in verse 2. So he is essentially sending his children out to go and on his behalf to see if they can plead with their mother to kind of bring her back, because he dropped the lo off of their names, right? In verse or chapter 1, it was Lo Ami, and Lo Ruhama, and here is just Ami and Ruhama. So the lo is the not part, right? So now it's talking about that, yes, mercy, and yes, my people, right? And they are going out there because it sounds like she had run off, that she had, assumed that all the things that she was getting, all the gifts and the blessings, were because of those that she was committing adultery with. So she ran off to go be with them, not knowing that it was Hosea who was providing for her. The Lord was providing for Israel in their whole time of idolatry and their spiritual adultery with the Lord. It talks about into the wilderness. So that is kind of a tie back that he's going to take her into the wilderness, strip her naked, and the same time that she was born. So as Brother Jim had just mentioned, right, coming out of Egypt. So that's kind of where Israel became a nation, right? When they left out of Egypt, they were in the wilderness when they became a nation. So he's almost saying, like, I'm going to essentially revert them back to that same kind of time, right there when they're out there with nothing and they have to rely on him, right? That's when they was given manna and all the gifts and whatnot at that time that they provided for him, and there was no doubt. So he's almost the same thing, going to have to revert them back. Uh, all their prosperity, again, she thought that it was because of her lovers and the ones that she was with, but it was really the Lord. Seemingly, even when she was running off in adultery, sounds like Hosea was still providing for her, whether that was sending money or sending food. So even in her unfaithfulness, he's told to love and to care for her. All right. If we could, it talks about he will visit upon her in the days of Baalim. So that's essentially just like plural, like Baal worship in general. Baal, which we read in the Second Kings, was the primary deity that they were worshiping at that time. If somebody could read verses 14 through 23, the rest of the chapter. All right, so here the tone definitely switches, right? So beforehand it was kind of all the things that he was going to do. He's going to cut them off. He's going to put them in the wilderness. He's going to take away their vines and their fig trees and all that because of their adultery. And now it very much switches. And here at the beginning where it talks about, therefore, behold, I will allure her. I will bring her into the wilderness. It almost sounds like courting, right? Like dating. Like he's going to like kind of pull her back and kind of woo her almost, right? Israel, kind of win back his wife. It talks about Achor down here, the valley of Achor. So what do we know about the valley of Achor? Yep. Yeah, so this was, it's a tie back to Joshua, and that's in Joshua chapter 6 and 7. But yeah, it's about the sin of Achan. And if anybody remembers, so they crossed over Jordan, they took Jericho, and God said to leave all the spoils there, that it was not to be taken. Achan and his family disobeyed, so they took that and they hid it in their tent. That was discovered, and they were killed out there. And then, there's some stones heaped up into a pile because of it. And I was sitting there trying to think about this morning as I was kind of reviewing my notes about why that seems kind of obscure, right, to kind of pull out to it. And as I was kind of thinking about it, so they had just crossed over the land, right? So they just crossed over into Jordan. So that's essentially the first act of disobedience into the promised land that they were given, right? So they had just crossed over into this land, and that was the first instance of them going astray from what the Lord had said, right? So to me, I'm sure that's something they probably thought about more often than like we would, as kind of like a mark on them the first time that they disobeyed, which I think is why he talks here about it. It will no longer be what it represents now, but it will become a door of hope, right? That's how he he describes it in verse 15. So he will take that kind of blot off of their history, and it will become a positive. Then he kind of goes on, and it is describing kind of life during the millennium, right? The millennium reign of Christ. There's a lot of kind of Edenic language in here, right? Referring to the Garden of Eden. Just as he talks about how there won't be a need for a war. He's going to have covenants with the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air. So all the creeping things, everything's going to be kind of in harmony, kind of together and in peace. And then towards the end of that, he says that it will come to pass that he will hear them, say the Lord. So he mentions it a few different times, the word hear. That word hear is kind of like heed, so answer. It kind of means like that. So essentially, he's going to hear their prayers, he'll hear their wishes, the things that they want, because this is all a very, very positive portion of the book here. And here again, he changes the kind of the meaning of Jezreel. So he talks now. So instead of scattering his people away from him, it's almost like he's planting them, like he's sowing them around him. He turns it into a very positive thing, that they are my people, and they shall say that thou art my God. So he is going to take the negative connotations from all the previous ones, right, from the Valley of Achor all the way to Jezreel, and he's going to make those into a positive kind of connotation. I skipped over here in verse 16. It talks about they will call me Ishi, and they will no more call me Bali. So Ishi is like my husband. It's a very like kind of affectionate kind of term, like honey or dear or sweetie or something. Where Bali is like my Lord. So it's somebody that you would follow. So he's going to take away that almost authoritarian title and more of a sweet kind of loving title, right? He will call me Ishi, no more Bali. All right. Any other comments on chapter 2? I know I'm kind of running through that fast, but I'm really trying to get to chapter 3. All right. Chapter 3 is only 5 verses. If I get somebody to read all 5 of those, please. All right, so here we are tied a little bit back to Hosea and the challenges that he is facing here, right? So it says, then the Lord spoke unto Hosea again, and it says to go yet and love the woman, beloved of her friend, yet in adulteries. So even though that she is in adultery actively, he is instructed to go and to love her. The same is according to the love of the Lord toward the children of Israel. So even though that they are actively in rebellion, in spiritual idolatry, the same way that she is in marital adultery, he is instructed to go and to love her. And it sounds like, of course, in chapter 2 that she had ran off, she was away from him, and now he goes and he actually has to purchase her back. In verse 2, it talks about that he brought 15 pieces of silver and a homer of barley and a half homer of barley. So it sounds like when she was out there, either she was owned by somebody else or she was in some type of debt. Potentially it's, like the term for that would be like a pimp, maybe somebody she was linked up with, or again, she'd racked up some debt of some kind. But either way, Hosea, as her rightful husband, had to purchase her back. And I think we're all familiar with the typical price of a slave would be, right? Remember? 30 pieces of silver, right? And she was purchased by 15 pieces of silver, and a homer and a half of barley. So it almost sounds like, of course, we don't know the state of them, but Hosea couldn't even afford her, right? I mean, you would assume that she's going for the standard price at that time, somebody who was in some type of slave debt. And it sounds like he gave everything he could, the 15 pieces of silver, and then, made up the difference with the food. So literally in her state of rebellion, for lack of a better word, she is taking everything that they have, right? That's kind of the way I read it, is everything that Hosea could pull together and muster to kind of get her out, all their money, and then quite literally the food out of the children's mouths, right? To kind of get her back. And then after he purchased her for literally everything that he has, he again is told to love her and that she will abide for me many days. So it sounds like he purchased her back, and his instruction to her is, you need to stay at this place and kind of wait for me, like they're going to be separated. And during that time, she is not to play the harlot, nor shall she be with another man, but she will wait for him. And that is an illustration that the children of Israel will abide many days without a king, right? So they are, again, quickly about to be overthrown by Assyria and scattered. And they will go all that time without a king and without a prince. They will be in somebody else's land. They will not be able to sacrifice. They will not be able to have the teraphim word there is kind of like idol, something that you would ascribe, worship to, like a little figurine of some kind, something you would carry around. So the same way that Hosea is going to be away from Gomer, and this is her instruction during that time, is the same that the Lord will be away from Israel, and this is their instruction at that time, that they will not have somebody to rule over them. But this, again, is their instruction. But then afterward, it wraps up here on a very positive note that afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their God and David their king, and shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days. So this talks about in the latter days there will be a regrouping. David their king is, obviously a reference to their Messiah coming to rule over them. Again, kind of in the millennial kingdom, that this is their kind of regathering back together. All right. I know I went through that quick. Any other comments on anything that we've read today? So is this only for Hosea and the time that he was in? Right. I mean, you kind of tie into the prosperity and everything that was happening here, right? So just yesterday was the 250th anniversary of the U.S., right? And you can kind of link a lot of parallels to them, right? With the prosperity that they had and what they ascribed their success and prosperousness to, right? And then it kind of I guess we're out of time because there's kids' faces on the door. Kind of the same thing that we are here, right? We're what we attribute our success and our greatness to, and it was all because it was just built on the foundation of the Lord, right, that we kind of rejected. All right. Yes. That's right. And that's why I was trying to get to chapter 3 so fast, because that is them essentially, Christ given everything to purchase us back, right? So we were his to begin with. We rebelled, and he came and literally gave all that he had to purchase us back, right? And now I, for one, am very grateful for that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your attention.